The obsidian vault existed in a place where light went to die. Deep beneath the imperial palace of Zarketh Prime, past 17 security checkpoints and through corridors lined with psionic dampeners sat Cell Zero, a prison within a prison, sealed behind walls of condensed neutronium and shielded by technology, salvaged from civilizations that had crumbled into cosmic dust. Millennia ago, no one had entered Cell Zero in 3021 standard years. Until today. Lieutenant Cassian. Rill stood before the final door, a feeding tray hovering beside him on anti-grav repulsors. The corridor behind him stretched empty and silent, as if the palace itself held its breath. The tray contained something that looked like crystallized starlight mixed with raw antimatter, sustenance for a being that defied conventional biology. You understand the parameters, Lieutenant? The Emperor's voice crackled through his neural implant, distorted by the interference fields surrounding the vault. Yes, your radiance, Cassian replied, studying the door's surface. It was covered in warnings written in 47 dead languages. Enter, feed the prisoner, exit, do not engage in conversation. Do not look directly into its eyes. Do not think too loudly, the Emperor interrupted. Naira the Eternal can taste thoughts like you taste oxygen. The last keeper lost his mind simply contemplating her existence. That was 4,000 years ago. Cassian nodded, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Humans had only joined the Galactic Imperium 3 generations ago, after the contact wars had proven their species' unusual resilience to things that shattered other minds. The Emperor had specifically requested a human for this assignment. Something about their chaotic neural patterns, and their peculiar ability to compartmentalize existential horror. The door recognized his biosignature and began its opening sequence, a process that took 17 minutes and involved the simultaneous disengagement of locks existing in 4 different dimensional phases. When the door finally groaned open, Cassian stepped through. The cell was larger than he'd expected, a sphere perhaps 50 meters in diameter, its walls lined with the same neutronium alloy. Chains of pure crystallized time hung from the ceiling, each link containing a frozen moment, a second trapped in amber, and at the center, suspended in a field of inverted gravity, was Nira. She was magnificent and terrible, larger than any Terran cat by a factor of 50. Naira resembled a lynx crossed with something from humanity's deepest nightmares and most beautiful dreams. Her fur shifted through colors that didn't exist in normal space, hues that hurt to perceive, shades that whispered secrets to the optic nerve. Her eyes, when they opened, contained swirling galaxies, each one a universe she had consumed in her youth, before the old empire had finally managed to cage her. A human, Naira purred, her voice resonating through dimensions Cassian couldn't name. It sounded like continents grinding together, like stars being born and dying, like his mother's lullaby. How delightfully unexpected. Cassian set the feeding tray down on the designated platform, following protocol. Don't engage. Don't respond. Don't. You're wondering why they fear me, Naira continued, stretching in her suspension field. The chains rattled, and somewhere in the palace above, alarms would be shrieking silently. You've read the files. The Devourer of Worlds. The Star Killer. The Eternal Hunger. She yawned, revealing teeth that could bite through reality itself. Such dramatic titles. Tell me, little human, do you know why I've allowed myself to remain imprisoned here? Cassian's training screamed at him to stay silent. But something else, something fundamentally human and stubbornly curious, made him speak. Because you want to be here. The galaxies in Naira's eyes spun faster. Clever, your kind always were. Do you know what I've learned in 3,821 years of silence? How to be patient. How to wait. The Empire cycles through its guardians. The Zarketh lasted 15,000 years. Before them, the Velnari. Before them, species whose names have been erased from causality itself. She leaned forward, and despite the containment field, Cassian felt her presence press against his mind like a warm, purring weight. But humans, Naira whispered, humans are different. You're chaos incarnate. You look at the impossible and laugh. You stare into the abyss and then you dive in just to see what's at the bottom. You're here feeding me because every other species finally refused. They felt my hunger through the walls. They heard their thoughts echo in my dreams. They broke. Cassian met her galactic gaze. His instructors at the academy had taught him that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was acting despite it. And right now, every survival instinct he possessed was screaming at him to run. He stayed. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Because in another 1,000 years, give or take a century, your species will rule this empire. The Zarketh are already dying. Their sun withers, their birth rates plummet, their psychic might fades. They know it, I know it, and now you know it." Naira's purr deepened into something that might have been laughter. "When that day comes, when a human sits upon the eternal throne, remember this conversation. Remember that Naira the Eternal waited patiently in her cell, fed by the only species brave enough, or foolish enough, to treat her as something other than a nightmare to be forgotten." She settled back into her suspension field, her form becoming less distinct, more dreamlike. The food is acceptable, by the way. Same recipe for 4 millennia, terribly boring but predictable. One galaxy-filled eye cracked open. "Tomorrow when you return, and you will return, they always send the same keeper twice to test for psychological contamination. Bring something different." "Surprise me. Humans are good at that." Cassian backed toward the door, his mind reeling but somehow intact. As the neutronium barrier began its 17-minute closing sequence, he heard Naira's voice one final time, soft as a whisper, loud as a supernova. "Welcome to the vault. Lieutenant Cassian Rill. I've been waiting for your species for a very long time." The door sealed shut. Cassian stood in the corridor, his hand steady, his mind strangely clear. Above him, the palace monitoring systems would show no anomalies, no breaches, no contamination. But in his pocket, Cassian's hand closed around a small piece of synthesized tuna he'd smuggled in, just in case. Tomorrow, he thought, Naira the Eternal was getting something different. After all, even cosmic horrors deserved a little variety in their diet.